Welcome to Fireside Nets with Spen and Nick, brought to you by Empire Sports Media. We are your hosts, Spen and Nick, and just another week in the Kevin Durant trade sweepstakes. But before we get into that, how's it going, little brother? How are you?
It's good. I can't get this. Do you see this weird glare on my screen?
You do have a glare. I can see it.
It's kind of cinematic.
It's a little cinematic. You're a movie guy. Thank you for sending that article over. My brother was a producer on a documentary that was recently filmed. What was it called?
It's called The Jewish Jail Lady and the Holy Thief. It was recently released. It wasn't recently filmed, but
recently filmed in the last few years.
It premiered at the Chinese Theater in LA to a sold-out crowd, and it's won about 20 festival awards around the world. So it's been cool to see.
Very awesome trailer. Check it out on YouTube and watch the whole thing.
On Vimeo. And both are on Vimeo, not YouTube, but thank you.
Vimeo. So good stuff for Nick. Good stuff for me. Work's good. Life's good. Dog's good. Marriage is good. I've been seeing the parents a lot. They say they hate you. They say I'm the favorite son. Do you believe that?
That you're the favorite son or me?
Me.
Yeah, well, you're the son that needs more love. I'm pretty good on my own, but if you don't get love, you'll probably melt like a little hippopotamus or something.
That's true. I do get upset when I don't get enough love, which is very often.
Yeah, it's like when Andy Samberg says to Jeff Ross in the James Franco roast, "You melting hippo."
Speaking of not getting enough love, let's get into this Kevin Durant for Jaylen Brown trade, Michigas.
Whoa, Derek White's included in there.
He is included in there. So is Marcus Smart. Basically, news breaks this morning. I woke up, I saw it. Adrian Wojnarowski drops a bomb early on in the morning. Bow, 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 bow. That was a bomb noise.
Yeah, I got you.
That the Celtics engaged with the Nets in trade talks that centered around, Jaylen Brown as the returning piece alongside Derek White and I guess one or two first-round picks. No, one first-round pick. That trade, and then it came out a few hours later by Shams Charania. That was the trade that the Celtics made to the Nets, which was rejected by the Nets. So the Nets could have had Jaylen Brown, Derek White, and a first based off of Shams' report. Nets said no. Nets then countered with Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart, Derek White, another role player, one or two first-round picks, and the Nets would give them Kevin Durant. That was the news early on. Celtics fans were going crazy. We're going to get into the reaction from Celtics fans in a second, if it's justified or not. But then, of course, a few hours later, the superstar of the NBA basketball media world, Brian Windhorst, basically dunks on both of them, on Shams and Woj, and he says, well, these talks happened weeks ago, but nothing's active right now. It's just getting leaked now that these talks happened. And it was leaked by Adrian Wojnarowski, who is the mouthpiece for, as every Nets fan knows,
Woj leak.
Sean Marks is and Woj, they're buddies. They get dinner together virtually. And Marks tells Woj everything that's happening in the Nets world. So when Adrian Wojnarowski reports something that's Brooklyn Nets based, you better believe Sean Marks told him. So
they call that a leaky wiener.
I'll start with the trade itself. I mean, if we're going to trade Kevin Durant, and he has not rescinded his trade request, so he's still on the market, would you want to see Jaylen Brown in a Nets uniform? And do you think that we were wrong to say no to that first trade offer?
No, that first trade offer was ridiculous. Wasn't it like Derek White, Jaylen Brown, and a bunch of picks, and the Celtics might not even get great picks because they're a pretty great team, and they've already used a lot of their better picks in the past over the past few years. So, I didn't like it. Do I think the Nets always counter with the most absurd chicken trade that no one's going to do? It's so stupid. It's like two friends who are too afraid to budge and no one will ever compromise, right? It's like me and my roommate one time were trying to bet on the Lakers winning the championship. And I was like, there's no way they win. And he's like, all right, well, I'll give you 1 to 50 odds they don't win. And I was like, no, I'll give you 1 to 5 odds because it's still a rough chance. He's like, well, if you really believe they're not going to win, right? So it's one of those conversations. It's okay, how bad do the Celtics want Kevin Durant? Not bad enough to trade their entire team, which was a Eastern Conference finalist team, right? So it's kind of ridiculous. Again, I think it's all just like dramatic. I don't think the Nets want to give up Durant unless they literally are guaranteed to get a championship contender. They don't really care about the future right now. The Nets have never really cared about the future. So unless you're giving them like top three picks in the next 2 years from the worst teams, they're not going to get these average picks. I love Jaylen Brown. I'm down for Jaylen Brown. I can give two vag squirts about Derek White, but I do like Marcus Smart. He's one of those guys too. Yes, he's one of those guys. You hate him when he's not on your team. You love him when he's on your team. And it's just ironic to me that I only hear how much people hate Durant in Boston. Obviously, he's hated around like Golden State, doesn't fuck with him that much anymore since he left, although they're happy about the two ships. But people in Boston, all I hear is Boston fans laughing at Nets fans about Kevin Durant. So it's just funny to me, the irony that they might get Kevin Durant and have to live with that drama, that controversy, the reputation that surrounds him. Again, I don't think either team will take these trades. If you were going to tell me we could come to a compromise, I would do Kevin Durant for Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart, Derek White, and some valuable picks if that's possible. Besides that, like I've been saying the past few weeks, we can't trade away a superstar for a worse superstar and nothing else.
Yeah, that's a good point. The first thing I'll say is that Jaylen Brown is the most attractive name I've seen in trade talks since they began.
And I would rather Jaylen Brown than Jason Tatum personally.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. So, you talked about KD and the drama that he brings, whatever you want to call it. A lot of people don't like to talk about how, before the Celtics went on their run to end the season, Celtics had some drama inside that locker room for a little bit. You had Marcus Smart calling out guys, mid-season. There were the media was basically saying Jaylen and Jason can't win together. And guess what? If you're thinking of trading Jaylen Brown for what you deem as a better entity, you're basically buying into that they can't win together. So this is tough on a lot of levels. I think that Celtics fans worship Jaylen Brown. Like, you ask any of our friends from Massachusetts, they like him more than Jason Tatum. They acknowledge that Tatum might be the better player, but what Brown did in the playoffs all the way to the finals, and Tatum was great in the playoffs, but he kind of, his flame dimmered out in the finals. Is that proper English? Is dimmered out a word? Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, we'll go with it.
It's not. It would just be dim. He dimmed the lights.
Yeah, the lights got dimmer as the finals went on. He played worse basketball. Jaylen Brown was their MVP throughout the playoffs. So you're saying the best player on an Eastern Conference champion and a finals runner-up, he would have been the MVP if they won that finals. He's not, why is his name even being brought up in trade talks is my point. So Jaylen Brown tweeted today, SMH, which is hilarious because there's so many different context, options here. Obviously the initial instinct is that, okay, SMH, he's pissed the Celtics have his name in trade talks. I thought they liked him. But then all the Celtics fans are saying, nah, he's just saying SMH because the media is playing this up and he knows that Boston loves him and whatever, but yada, yada. Whoever you want to ask, he tweeted it. It was tweeted. So, if you're the Celtics, now that this information is leaked, probably by Sean Marks, do you have any more of an inclination to now make this move? Because you've already put Jaylen Brown's name in trade talks.
I mean, as we all know, SMH stands for stroke my hammercock. So I think, sorry, that was too much.
That's way too much. I thought I was being controversial with the light dimmered. Talking about hammercocks on this podcast.
I think Jaylen Brown just wants to acknowledge that he knows what's going on. Nobody wants to hear their name in trade talks without being in the loop. Celtics are a professional organization. I would imagine that Jaylen Brown knows they're not getting rid of Jason Tatum. He's probably the only one they would never trade, unless, they literally got the moon and the stars and the suns in the transaction.
And the Hammercocks.
So, no, this isn't a surprise that he tweeted that, and I don't think it's super controversial. Listen, this is a league. This is a business. Celtics are trying to win a ship. We're trying to win a ship. Obviously,
What does
both
that mean,
teams.
by the way, when you say this is a business? You just say it like it's a thing people say. Could you explain
Because
what that
there's
means?
it means there's no loyalty and there's no love in this league like there used to be. Tell me right now, I have one
So the
player in
league
mind.
didn't used to be a business.
No, it didn't. No, it
Okay,
used to be.
that's what I was saying. Got
Used
it.
to be a community. But I'm thinking of one player right now, point guard in the West that has never left his city, and he loves his city. He said it wouldn't feel right to win anywhere else.
Damian Lillard.
He re-signed this year. He said it wouldn't feel right to live anywhere else than Portland. So to play anywhere else except for Portland. So when I say it's a business, I mean Jaylen Brown is a smart dude. He went to Cal. He knows. He understands. He might be on the trading block. Neither team won a championship last year. Both teams fell short. Nets obviously had much higher expectations, but the Celtics when they were going through the playoffs, they were the favorite as the time went on. Everyone was pretty sure the Celtics were going to win the ship until the Warriors kind of sparked up and were nonstop after a certain amount of time. So it makes sense that the Celtics try to spice something up. They also had to play near perfect before they lost. They were playing what was it? Grant Williams was shooting 60% from three. So these things aren't going to happen again next season without them making moves. That's my point.
I also think that
Daniel
Jaylen
Tice
Brown
sucks. If you think Daniel Tice is good, you suck.
Jaylen Brown wasn't the issue, and I think that's what's frustrating for Celtics fans is they look at this and they're like, "Look, can we use a real point guard on this team? Maybe because you have 3 or 4 scoring guards now. You have Malcolm Brogdon. I mean, nice pickup, but he's a scoring point guard first. You have Marcus Smart, who can pass a little bit. Yeah, he's not a terrible pass guy, but he's also not a true point guard.
They
and then Derek White.
Too, right?
Yeah, I got Gallinari as well. So I don't know. And again, according to Brian Windhorst, these trade talks kind of stopped. Activity stopped a few weeks ago. What is weird is there were 2 reports by Woj. The initial report this morning was the Nets don't want to trade KD, but if they have to, obviously they're going to listen to offers. And then at 4 or 5 p.m. when I think he was on NBA Today, he basically said, don't get it twisted. The Nets do want to trade KD. So he said 2 different things, completely conflicting. The one thing I'll say is what's super annoying, and I know this has been brought up a million times on Nets Twitter, but I think it's worth saying on this podcast. If Kevin Durant decided to come back, Nets have a really good squad. They're like a backup center away and maybe a backup point guard away from being a top 3 team in the East. I mean, you look at their roster right now, it's Ben Simmons, or their starting 5 would be Ben Simmons, Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant, Joe Harris, and Nick Claxton. It's a pretty darn good starting 5. With Seth
Joe
coming
Harris.
off the bench.
I would say Seth Curry starting over Joe if Seth Curry.
I would agree with you, but if I don't want to get burned at the stake on Nets Twitter because they love Joe Harris.
I mean, I love Joe Harris more than Seth Curry.
Right.
But it's Seth Curry. It's kind of he's just a higher market.
Regardless, one of those guys comes off the bench with Patty Mills, who re-signed. You have Cam Thomas coming into his second year. You have Day'Ron Sharpe, who will obviously see some time in his second year. Kessler Edwards, and you get 1 or 2 more players. A guy like DeMarcus Cousins, who's out there. I think Markieff Morris is signing with the Sixers. But there are a few other guys out there who you can possibly snag. A few backup point guards. A guy's name that's been floating around is a return to the Brooklyn Nets, Mike James. What do you think about a Mike James return, Nick?
I think no. Why would we? I like Mike James. He shot 37% from the field.
Yeah,
I just don't want this mentality of I don't want to be an organization like the Lakers, and we kind of do this a lot of the past few years, where we front load so much on the stars and then the secondary unit that our 8, 9, 10 guys become the scrap of the scrap. We're scraping the barrel, getting Jackie Moon as our 8th guy. We're paying him $7 a game, and he's hucking up threes like Mike James. Again, Mike James had a good attitude. He was a hustler. He was really trying to contribute to this team. He was just playing on a level below the rest of the team and arguably the rest of the league.
Your starting power forward, your owner, your coach, your pop singing sensation, Jackie Boo. How was that?
That was pretty good.
It's pretty good. Major point here is if Kevin Durant came back, Nets are still a contender. You make a move or 2, if you're Sean Marks. But that's the frustrating thing. Like, no matter what this return is for Kevin Durant, it just totally muffs up the team, right? Because I like Jaylen Brown a lot. I like him more than Tatum. I think he'd be an awesome player on the Brooklyn Nets. But, like, how is he going to mesh with the rest of the team? How are him and Simmons going to mesh? You know, how would him and Kyrie play together after all these years? I know they're kind of friendly, so that's probably not a good point. But regardless of whatever you do, if you're the Brooklyn Nets, chemistry is just going to be so shaken, and it sucks not knowing what they're going to do. And the fact that they're so adamant on trading Kevin Durant, not trying to reconcile with him. And by the way, he has not been silent on Twitter. I mean, he's been tweeting about his, this upcoming documentary, NYC Point Guards, on Showtime. I don't want to give them any promotion until I know he's with the Nets. He's still been active on Twitter, as he should be, but it's just so awkward. Like, there's he's got 20 million followers, and the glaring elephant in the room is you do not want to play for the team that currently employs you.
Whoa, bro. Don't call Brian Windhorst an elephant.
Oh, God, dude. Not cool.
What's bomb?
So yeah, that's where we're at. We can move on real quick. Talk about Kyrie Irving. The report is that whether or not Kevin Durant is traded, Kyrie Irving is going to honor his contract and play with the Nets. He's going to be here next year as long as he's not traded. And the report is the Nets will not trade Kyrie for now, unless Kevin Durant's traded and they change their mind, which is a fancy way of saying we're easily going to trade Kyrie right after we trade KD. So
I heard they were going to trade Kyrie for KD and do like an internal Nets deal where they both end up staying with the Nets.
I thought they were going to do like a Freaky Friday situation where Kyrie goes in KD's body.
That would be really cool. I'd be down for that.
Oh, man. So, yeah, that's where we're at as Nets fans. We're just waiting for these things to happen. I mean, not a lot else. Summer League was kind of fun, but we all kind of, knew Cam Thomas was going to dominate. I think he's going to be a really solid player for Brooklyn this season, regardless who's on the team. He's going to be a huge scorer off the bench. And I think if KD's traded, he's going to have a chance to make a name for himself, because this is going to be a huge Cam Thomas year if you don't have Kevin Durant on this team.
Would you rather have Cam Thomas or Cam Payne?
Probably Cam Thomas. I don't really think Cam Payne is that good.
Dude, Cam Payne's the backup point guard on a championship contending team the last 2 years.
Yeah. A championship contending team? Sure. Yeah.
Just letting you know. I like Cam Payne. Lefty point guard, very scrappy. You're a little more high on Cam Thomas than I am. I think he's just kind of a defensive liability and not a playmaker. Again, a lot of potential, but I worry sometimes with Nets development, right? We're still waiting for Cam Thomas to step up. We've been waiting for Claxton to become a legitimate starting center. And when's that going to happen? He could start right now, but he wouldn't be a great center. He'd be a good center. He'd be a fine center. But you think about around the league, there's many centers you would rather have over Claxton who are starting right now.
Agreed. Yeah, Claxton's not the best center. He's not the worst center, but we extended him. He's got some promise. I was watching an old game on NBA TV today. It was Nets Magic when Kyrie Irving went for 60. And just watching that kind of pissed me off because they were up like 30 the whole game. Kyrie's doing his thing. KD looks pumped as hell. And I remember that game. It was one of the only games Kyrie Irving was able to play this season. So it was in, I think March or April. And they looked so happy, just torching this young Magic's team. And I'm thinking,
that's what we're holding on to, right? Those moments of Kyrie where you're just like, he's so fucking good at basketball.
Why give up on that? Why?
I also, and this is nothing to do with the Nets, but I did watch Kobe's 81-point game last week. Man, that was just like some powerful stuff. Speaking of high-scoring games. But I digress. R.I.P. Kobe Bryant, one of the most incredible performances of all time. Yes, games like that is the reason that we are okay holding on to Kyrie despite all of his antics.
Watching Kobe TikToks, like I can never scroll past a Kobe TikTok because it's either a ridiculous highlight or it's him just like alphaing other guys.
Or just saying like an inspirational quote.
Yo, yeah, he was obviously the inspirational stuff. I get all that, but I'm a psychopath. I like to see just dudes who dominate other dudes. And like you watch Kobe Bryant practice against the Lakers back in the day, he'd literally just be like, "These motherfuckers are Harmon soft, Charmin soft, Harmon soft."
Charmin, like the toilet paper?
I thought the CH was just an H.
No, it's not a silent C. Also, you already
Yeah.
know in The Last Dance where it's Kobe's first All-Star game and like MJ and them are talking shit about Kobe in the locker room. Like,
dope.
man, this Kobe kid keeps shooting, huh? He's like, no matter what. And it's cool because Jordan became a mentor to Kobe. And Kobe used to get mad when they'd compare them too, because he'd say, there is no Kobe without Michael, so you can't say who's better because I can't. And he said, and I quote, everything you see from me came from him.
One of my favorite Kobe things was when him and Shaq did that, like, I forget what it was on, but they did sort of an NBA TV thing where they sat down and they talked about everything. And Shaq was like, you know, when I was pissed off at you when you won your 5th ring. And Kobe was like, yeah, I know you were. Like Kobe alphaed Shaq. He alphaed a dude who was like that much more bigger, that much more taller, but Kobe was just that dude. So RIP. Kevin Durant tweeted about Kobe like today. Nice. It was something, it was a picture of them. I don't want to paraphrase because I think that would do it disjustice. Just go over there, check it out. I'll pull it up. Kevin Durant, he said it was an overtime video of the Olympic team shoot from, I think, 2012 with like Chris Paul, Darren Williams, Kobe, and overtime posted it. Kevin Durant wrote, Bean trying to get his stance right is too funny in the picture. I miss my dog every day. So I can't, hate on Kevin Durant for tweeting something like that. That's real emotional stuff. I can hate on him, however, for tweeting NYC point guards this Friday on Showtime, the tweet before that.
Yeah, you can hate on anything you want these days.
Anyway, that's just going to about do it for this week. Shorter episode, focused on KD, Kyrie, the obvious things. Didn't talk much about Ben Simmons. I don't think we really had to. Nothing to report on that guy until I see him in training camp in a few weeks. But we will keep you updated on all the latest trade rumors surrounding the Brooklyn Nets. This is Fireside Nets with Spen and Nick, brought to you by Empire Sports Media. Any final words for the listeners, Nick?
Yeah, I just want to apologize for some of the profanity in this episode. This one went a little bit off the rails. We'll reel it in come next week or not. You kind of just got to stay tuned to see what happens.
And you know what? I just remembered I got to go to Ace Hardware this weekend and pick up some hammers. So I will let you know how that goes with the hammers. And thank you guys for listening to another edition of Fireside Nets with Spen and Nick, brought to you by Empire Sports Media. Have a good one.